Man, you better give him some more. Man, that's good stuff. Feel better already. Are you that cold? Huh? Turn that thing. Yeah, Jacob, knock that thing up there a little. Yeah. I learned this at some of them big churches. If you turn the air up real good and you get it good and cold, they'll get the goosebumps and think they got the Holy Ghost. They'll say, "Whoo, wasn't that a good service?" Oh gosh. I just start out in trouble usually. Let all the secrets out. Is everybody good? Yeah. I feel better already, don't you? All right, all right. Well, we've been talking about faith a lot lately, and I don't know, I just think we've really been getting off into it deep and all. I thought, I'm going to give you the opportunity. I do quite a bit. Is somebody messed up by it or got a faith question or anything? Keep on going? All right. Everybody's good? Yeah. Nobody's got one burning on them, I don't guess. All right. Well, I found this story. All right. I knew Zeke would have one.
I was just going to say something that you said last week. I wasn't here for a while. It was really helpful to me. You were talking about the weightlifter. And that's been super pivotal to me because I was grading myself on if someone isn't healed or saved in my 24 hours, then some, so I haven't arrived yet. You know what I mean? And so that was really helpful. So I appreciate you saying that.
All right. Yeah. Here's what I told Vaughn. We talked about endurance, it's awesome just to have the kind of faith that just moves mountains right now and produces miracles and whoa, like Jesus himself walked in the room and everything's changed right now, that's fun. I like that. We go for that. But there's also an aspect of endurance that if it doesn't necessarily happen immediately, doesn't mean you still don't believe and you're still not letting faith work for you. So much so that I told Vaughn like this, we all want it to happen immediately. We all want to see the results we want to see immediately. But, remember I read that verse last week? Where was that at? The one nobody likes, right? It is in James. And so it talked about endurance. Every time you get opposition, count it all joy and celebrate it. We're like, what? No way. I'm not celebrating every time the devil comes at me, but he's saying, look, you don't get good at fighting. I've said it like this, you don't get good at winning if you don't have a battle. But you don't get good at fighting if the battle doesn't last a little while.
I don't want to.
I know we don't like that. We don't even want to talk about that. But I'm going to tell you, it's one thing to have a strong right hand hook and knock somebody out that quick. But if that's the case, you get in the ring with somebody that's going to last a while, you're going to be in trouble and you're going to be out of wind. See what I'm saying? So it's good now. It's like, well, things didn't happen right away. Well, that gives me the opportunity to gain some endurance and to get into shape a little bit and get practice at fighting.
Yeah, that's right.
It's one thing to have a strong right hand, but if you got to go 3 rounds or 3 weeks or 3 years, you're going to wear out. When that right hand didn't work, now what? Uh-oh, we're in trouble. We ain't trained for this. Right? It's one thing to get good at winning. I like winning. But it's another thing to get good at fighting. Paul said faith's a fight. Good fight of faith. It's good because if you stay in, you always win.
That's right. Jesus didn't spend this one day in the wilderness.
No. That's true. And another thing, every time the devil come at him, what did he do?
It is written.
It is written.
What's the word?
It is written. It is written. He didn't freak out. He didn't call his prayer chain.
Didn't get on Facebook.
All he said was, it is written, it is written. Every time you come at him with whatever, it didn't matter. It is written. It is written. It is written. I say barely even reacted, you know. I was thinking about this today, this really having faith in grace. You know, that's where we started out. Ephesians said, by grace are you saved through faith. Right? So we're saved. That word saved, we've churched that too much, where we've said if you everybody here doesn't know Jesus, you're a sinner, you can repeat this prayer after me and He'll write your name in a book and you can go to heaven one day. That's what we've said saved is. But saved is so much more than that. Yeah, you get to go to heaven one day, but saved is so much more. It's redeemed. It's the definition of the word is preserved, protected, made whole, healed, kept safe and sound. It's so much more than that. And so grace has provided that. Right? So grace has provided it. You didn't earn it. You didn't qualify for it. You didn't get good enough. You didn't act right. You didn't get it. You know, you didn't go to church so many days. You didn't pray so many days in a row and read your scripture and all this. Grace provided it. Everything. Grace. Oh boy. Here's what grace is. Us having access to everything that we would have access to if sin had never existed.
Yeah, that's right.
What would we have access to right now if sin had never existed? If you had never blown it. If Adam had never blown it, or we had never blown it, or no one had ever blown it, and no one had ever heard of sin, and we were still living in this paradise, Garden of Eden with God, perfect love. I mean, none of this stuff we have nowadays, sin never existed. Let your mind go there just a little bit. If sin never existed, what would we have access to? That's what grace is. That's what we have. That's the heart of God, and it's in His heart to be able to treat us as if sin never existed. This really was a big thing of why Jesus came. You know, there's a lot of reasons Jesus came, a lot of stuff to all that He did. But really, one of the biggest things He came to do was to reveal God's true nature. To reveal how God really wants to be known. And so God revealed Himself through Jesus. It's like, you know, we have the law of Moses and we still sprinkle that in on everything we do, seems like, you know. And so God, when the law of Moses was implemented, right, God pulls the people, the Hebrew children out of Egypt. They were slaves 400 years, you know, and all this stuff, and He pulls them out of Egypt. He gets Moses. Moses, go down there and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And, you know, all the plagues and all that stuff. And finally Pharaoh cries uncle and says, get them out of here. And away they go, and they get out there in the wilderness, and He parts the Red Sea, and they walk through on dry land, and they get hungry. He provides manna, and they get tired of manna, and they grumble and complain, and He gives them meat, and so He just blessing them, and He blessing them. They're thirsty, and He gives them water. He gives them fire by night to keep them warm. He provides a cloud during the day to keep them shaded. I mean, He's just embarrassing Himself. Because He's just pouring goodness out on them and blessing them, and they're murmuring and complaining, and they're full of unbelief, and they're a bunch of ungrateful, right? And He's just blessing them, providing for them and all. And so then all of a sudden they get this bright idea, and they say, Moses, you go up on the hill and tell God to tell us what to do, and we'll do it. Right? Dumb idea. So Moses goes up on the hill, and God gives them the 10 Commandments, and now they're under the law. They're under a whole different system now than they were under. So the day the law's given, 3,000 people die. Why? Is that the heart of God? No. It's not the heart of God. But He's bound to operate under the covenant that they've entered into, right? So now, basically, here's what they're saying. You've been blessing us based on how good you are. We don't want you to do that no more. we want you to start blessing us now based on how good we are. I mean, that's got to be humanity's most dumbest moment. If, you know, you just quit blessing us because how good you are and start blessing us how good we are. And the minute they entered into that deal, 3,000 of them, right? I would have been like, whoa, we change our mind on this right quick. Let's go back to the other deal. No, so they went in this deal, and so it's like all this time until Jesus comes, they're operating under this old deal. And I just want to think about the heart of God and how that broke His heart to have to be hindered, to have His hands tied, that He had to operate according to the covenant that they were under. I mean, it's got to be heartbreaking for Him, because I want to be known for how I really am. But everybody, even today, everywhere, humongous majority of churches, especially Western world, America, all this stuff, there's, I don't know, millions of Christians, would you say, or so-called, or whatever, you know, so here they all are, and they're all still basing their opinions of who God is and what God's like based on that old covenant. And God's saying, that's not a representation of my heart. My hands are tied and I can't be good to you under this system, because it's based on you and your performance and your shouts and your shout-nots. So I'm going to come myself and fulfill that covenant, because you can't put an end to a covenant without dying. Somebody in the covenant has to die in order for covenant to be full term. Right? Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with it, I come to fulfill it. What does that mean? See, them guys that are against grace and still think you need some law, they'll always pull that verse out on you. Now, Jesus didn't come to do away with the law. No, He came to fulfill it. Well, once your mortgage is fulfilled and you've paid all the payments, you quit sending in payments, don't you? It's fulfilled. That's what He's saying. I've come to die, and when I die, that covenant has come full term, and it's null and void and no longer in effect. That's the heart of God. I can't express my true nature under that deal, so I've come to bring a new deal, and Jesus implemented a new deal. Because Jesus died and shed His blood, we are now under a new covenant with God, and in this covenant, He can express His true nature and His heart, because He can now be good to you without you having to be good enough and earn it. That's good news. I can be blessed now on my worst day. He can pour out His true heart and nature on me on my worst day, when I don't deserve nothing. I deserve death. I'm the most rotten. I didn't care nothing about Him. I was selfish. No, all this stuff. He has nothing hindering Him to pour out His goodness in my life, because I don't have to be qualified for it. I don't have to earn it. Fact is, I've realized it's His heart to treat me as if I'm a son of God that has never even heard of sin.
Good.
Now put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now watch, that doesn't automatically happen, does it? By grace, I'm put in that place through faith. Through faith. That's like, now I'm going to have to start believing it, even though it might not necessarily look like it. Right? So what we've been talking about, faith. I'm believing that now because He's made it known to me, not because I've seen evidence of it in my life. Right? I'm believing what I may not have proof of. I'm believing something that I can't see. Faith is like contrary to my natural man, my senses, smell, touch, see, right? People want to say the opposite of faith is doubt, or, you know, you've heard that, right? The opposite of faith is doubt. I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm going to say really the opposite of faith is sight. Because the minute you see it, it no longer takes faith. Faith ends at sight. So now I'm saying, that was just warm up there. I'm catching everybody up to this spot. Now, once you start getting into this faith thing and you understand that I'm believing all this about God, that the blessing of Abraham is now operating in my life. Not because I'm qualified, because He qualified me. Not because I've done anything right, because He's done everything right. And then put me in that position. I mean, it's like He got the perfect report card and whited out His name and put my name on the top of it and handed it to the Father and said, look at here, look at your boy Jason. You know, I was just like, you know. So I just decided to believe that. It's like faith is having confidence in the covenant that you're in. Faith is having confidence in the covenant that you're in. Now, this confidence starts becoming real. Like I'm no longer vulnerable. I'm no longer living in fear. Have I got the right bunch?
Yes.
I saw this today. I did see this today. I was thinking about this story today, and it's one of my favorites because there's this woman in the Old Testament, and she's called if I can say this right, Shunammite woman. Is that right? Shunammite. Shulamite. What they said? Something like that. Whatever it was. This woman. So this woman and her husband, they got a place, and they're working, I don't know what all to do. And so there's this man of God, I think it was Elisha. And so he's the man of God, he's the prophet, right? And so when he comes by their area, he'll come in and stay with them, and they like for him to come and stay. And so he could come to their house and rest, and they actually built on a room for him, and he had his own little room, and anytime he was in the area, he could come and stay in that room, And so he appreciated that, and he had his little assistant. And so they said, Elisha was like really blessed because they'd done this for him, And so he said to his little assistant, I'm paraphrasing the story, because I got my Passion Bible tonight, and it's not in this one. So you're getting Jason's version. So Elisha says, hey, what's that Shunammite woman need? I want to bless her. Let's get some kind of miracle for her. Or do what does she need? And she's like, they don't need nothing. And so the little assistant, he says, hey, she ain't got no sons. Now she's old. She'd given up on the idea. And so he said, you ain't got no sons. So next year, about this time, you're going to have a son. And she's like, don't you be messing with me. Jason's version. You read it. This is in 2 Kings 4, I think. She's like, it's because you imagine where her heart's at now. She had dreamed her whole life, because in this time especially, it was a woman's honor if she could provide sons for her husband. It was a big deal. And so she went her whole lifespan and hadn't been able to provide a son. And so this was a kind of probably a big mental turmoil thing for her. And so she says, don't you be freshening this up in my mind, because I've shoved this way down to a place. Don't you be stirring this up if you're not going to mean it. Don't you be messing with me. He said, this year, next year, this time, you're going to have a son, right? And so she said, oh, okay. So sure enough, next year, about that time, she's got a son, right? So then it says, now that's a pretty big deal. And so then it says that after the boy's grown, he goes to the field working with Dad, right? And so while they're out there working, he starts hollering. He's got my head, something in his head, I don't know, aneurysm or tumor or whatever they call it nowadays. But anyway, he's like severe pain head, and they hauled him to the house, and his mama got him, was holding him in her, and mama taking care of him. You imagine this father-mama-son deal that she's got going. This boy's probably a pretty big deal, And the boy dies in her arms. Dies in her arms. She takes the boy up to the man of God's room and lays him on the man of God's bed and takes off. Right? I love this woman.
Oh, I love
So she goes to the field to tell Dad and said, hey, I need one of them mules and send me some help, you know. I'm going to see the man of God. And he says, is everything all right? She says, it is well.
Yes. Yes.
So away she goes. She gets the mule, and away she goes, and said, hurry up, don't you slow down unless I tell you. And away they go, you know. And so then here she gets to the man of God. I don't know how far a trip it was, a little ways. And so here the assistant sees her, you know, and they said, ain't that the Shunammite woman coming? What's the matter with her? Why's she coming? And Elisha said, is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with your son?
It is well.
Here's what she says. It is well. The boy's dead at home. She was. Do you see her response? Do you see her reaction? Do you see her confidence? And think, I know that it is God that has provided me with this, and there ain't no devil from hell going to steal what God has given me. You see how she ain't panicked? She ain't called the hotline. She ain't got... She said, it is well. Now you better get to the house. So man of God's all right. And he goes down there and he lays on him and breathes on him and all this, whatever else, raises the boy from the dead. Now he's been dead a while. He's been dead a while. Raised the boy from the dead and give him back to his mama. You know. Now I'm saying all that to say this. What about getting to the place of having so much confidence in who we are and what God's done in us and for us that anytime the devil shows up to try to steal, we don't even give him the satisfaction to see us sweat or even think he might have made us nervous. You got this test result, huh? It is well. Huh? The devil only knows what you believe until he hears you talk. Oh yeah, he only knows what you believe. He's only sure about what you got going until he can hear you talk. Oh, I use that against him. We're just going to keep on in this thing until we get so much confidence in who we are because of who he says we are. That faith comes alive inside of us and we're no longer shook. Fact is, we become like David. David was so confident in the covenant that he was in. I mean, he's in a covenant. David living under the old covenant. The old covenant's based on the blood of bulls and goats, and if you sacrifice 3 turtle doves and all this kind of stuff, right? That's the covenant that David's under. And he shows up to a fight that ain't even his fight. And here Goliath is taunting an army of the living God, making fun of those that are in covenant with God. And David shows up, he's just a boy, and he said, what's the matter with y'all? Jason's version. What's the matter with y'all? Aren't you in covenant with God? This uncircumcised Philistine, right? Why is he bringing up the fact that he's uncircumcised? Now, I don't know if he could, how he knew that exactly. But he knew somehow. Maybe just because he was a Philistine. I don't know. But anyway, David's saying, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Why is he saying that? Because he's saying, this rascal is not in covenant with God, and we are in covenant with God. And then it says he ran toward him. And most of us are in a covenant based on better blood, with better promises, on a better, everything better about the covenant that we're under. And anytime John shows up hollering at us, we run the other way and holler and scare and put it on Facebook and get 3 prayer chains going. So, oh my God, what's in prayer? I seen church sign the other day said, when in doubt, pray. I thought, well, a lot of good that's going to do. I've never seen where the prayer of doubt produced anything. Oh, I'm sorry, that's mean. Probably.
It's the truth.
People put that on there might be watching.
Good.
Probably not, you're right. They turned me off a long time ago. When in doubt, pray. I'm thinking, well, I guess if you're going to do anything, prayer's better than a lot of things you could do. But what about praying in faith?
Yes.
What about being so confident in the covenant that we're in that the giant comes along and we just step up and say, bring it on, big boy. Because all you're going to do is, it's guaranteed that I win. All I got to do is stay in the fight. And all you're going to do is establish it in me more. And I'm going to get better at fighting. And I'm going to get stronger. And I'm going to practice winning. So you run the risk of messing with me. Fact is, you stay in this and you keep embracing this and you keep growing in this, it's going to be too expensive for the devil to come by your place. Can't lose. As long as we stay in the fight. So if we can't lose, guaranteed win, all we got to do is stay in faith. I'm just going to get better and better at winning. We got to take our I'm trying to think of a nice way to say we need to grow up. Is that nice enough?
Good enough.
Every time the devil comes along and takes a little stab at us, we want to whimper and cry. Come on, is this too tough?
No.
I got the right bunch?
Yeah.
What if that rascal comes along and we just grit our teeth? Have a little gunpowder in our belly, look him in the eye, and you just think, before long you say, uh-oh. They said at the end of this whole deal, when all this is settled and the devil's sent to hell and all that stuff, and we actually see what he really looks like, that this is in there. I don't know the address. You can look this up. When we see him, we're going to go, that's him? Are you kidding me? Like, oh my gosh. Because he has no power. Now you can look at the world today and you think he's got a lot of power. I'm telling you, he has no power. The only power he has is to tell you a lie and get you to use your power for his agenda. The minute you get established in faith and understand the covenant that you're in, you're no longer believing his lie. You're no longer lending him your power. And you start living in victory. In fact, it's like this whole thing. Here's what faith is right now. God's on one side whispering in your ear. The enemy's on the other side whispering a lie in your ear. And they're both fighting over you because you're the one that lives in both worlds. God is a spirit.
Amen.
God is a spirit.
Yes, He is.
Satan's a spirit.
Yep.
You are a spirit.
Yep.
You're also natural. You're a human being. You're a spirit. You're created in the likeness and image of God. That's what you are. You're a spirit. That's how come you don't die. Your body might quit you, but you don't die.
Amen.
So you're a spirit. That's what you are. You live in a body, and you possess a soul. Your mind, your soul, your will, your emotions, all that. You have that, right? But you're a spirit. Made in the image of God. It's like you're your Father. But we're the only ones that have a foot on the land and the sea. We're the only critter that is both physical and spiritual. We're the only ones that are legal to operate in the natural and also spiritual.
Amen. Yep.
I know somebody's going to squirm and say, God just can't come in the earth and do anything He wants to do. I know some of you ain't heard that before. God's God. He can do whatever He wants. Well, He is until He speaks. Right? God's God, He can do whatever He wants. Well, God's sovereign, right? We've all heard this. Everything happens for a reason. Must have been God's will. God's got a purpose in it, right? God's sovereign until He speaks. He will not violate His own word, right? So if God said, from this day forward, I'll never drink Pepsi again. Now, can God do whatever He wants?